historic occasion. It is the first time the Service Commission has evaluated itself to the extent where it is from experience and guided by the constitutional requirements. The Service Commission has embarked on a reformation of the scope intended. Secondly, and the purpose is very important for the country as a whole. The reform is not merely administrative or merely constitutionally designed, but it is more primarily dedicated to having a more efficient, reliable, and accountable police service, to insert in the police service management and leadership some proper and more acceptable levels of fairness in terms of discipline and in terms of promotion. The third major reason for the reform that we are embarking upon is to create a higher level of public safety for the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of oversight over the police, as both the opposition and the government 4 or 5 years ago recognized, is crucial for a democratic society. The police service can make the society go up or down, either way. And one of the assurances that we need to have to enable the police service to be more efficient, as I said, effective and also accountable, fairly handled, is to have a more effective and efficient oversight governance structure. And you certainly agree with me, the way things are today in the country with respect to crime, police accountable, there needs to be some higher order of accountability. I therefore express on behalf of the Police Service Commission our deepest gratitude for your presence and your willingness to assist in this exercise. The exercise really started on September the 24th this year through a meeting held with the Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, and in the presence of the Minister of National Security and the Honorable Attorney General, and also all members of the Police Service Commission. The major decision taken in view of the evidence, and more precisely because of the bipartisan pledge made in Parliament about 4 or 5 years ago, to have the legislative and administrative structure of this Police Service Commission reviewed within 2 years of its operation. Because of the evidence and that bipartisan pledge, a commitment was jointly made between the Prime Minister and the Police Service Commission to have a review team such as the one that we have today. The composition of the review team, furthermore, was considered and jointly agreed upon, and the list I will announce later on in these proceedings. In fact, the list includes almost all of you who are here today from different ministries and agencies. The Police Service Commission is also honored, and I wish that the Minister of Public Administration and the Attorney General were here, because Ms. Donna Cox, Member of Parliament for Laventille East, Mova, is here. And I thought I would like to emphasize that spirit and the value of the bipartisan nature of the exercise. Ms. Cox, thank you very, very much for attending. Ms. Cox was a former minister in the Ministry of National Security. And quite willingly she has agreed to represent the leader of the opposition in this exercise. And of course, when I call the names of the composition, the people who comprise the review team, I have also been asked to chair the review team. And the main reason for it, I wasn't of that view initially, but the main reason advanced by the joint meeting, that was to preserve the independence of the Police Service Commission in practical terms. I might repeat some of these things when the Attorney General is here, because he is the representative of the Prime Minister, and he is, as has been told to me, the conduit from what we do to the Prime Minister. So it is indeed a historic occasion for all of us, the Police Service Commission, the country, the executive, and as well the opposition partnering with us. When the bipartisan pledge was made, I think both Minister of Public Administration and myself, we were both senators. I was an independent senator. She was an opposition senator. So
So I witnessed the pledge. And I think we are going to fulfill that pledge to have the review of the Police Service Commission undertaken. Ladies and gentlemen, further than that, we held a roundtable of the key stakeholders at Hilton on October the 6th. And all the key stakeholders from the various ministries, national security, public administration, the Law Reform Commission, and also representing the opposition, Ms. Marlene McDowell and Ms. Donna Cox. There was strong consensus for what we are doing today. We call it the Hilton Consensus. So I'm giving you this historic antecedents to help validate this morning's mission. The Police Service Commission is therefore on a transformation exercise which fits in general terms within the government's own public service reform. I think the service commissions are an integral part of public administration, and I think it is necessary for a body like this. We are relatively new among the service commissions because we have been subjected to fresh amendments, Act 6 of 2006, Act 12 of 2007, both of which amended sections 122 and 122 respectively in the Constitution. So we are a new kid on the block, but then we have had experiences given the important mandate we have over the police service management. We think things are not working well. Because the Constitution expects one thing from us. Ms. McIntyre, come in, please. Come in. Ms. McIntyre is Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Public Administration. That's right. The Constitution, in those terms I just related, expects us to do a number of things. But the structure in which we function, particularly in terms of administrative support and the reliance for such support in terms of staffing and other human, physical, and financial resource support, it doesn't match the Constitution. So we now want to bring a closer, more productive alignment, and that is one of the terms of reference. The terms of reference will be given out this morning as jointly agreed again by the Prime Minister and the Police Service Commission. I would have felt more comfortable if Attorney General was here, because he's the one who has to carry forward the mission to the executive. But he's here, he's told me in a few minutes' time, but I don't want to keep you all back. So let me give you an example of why the situation needs to be remedied in terms of both the Constitution and the administrative structure in which we exist. The Constitution gives the police commissioner complete powers to manage the physical, human, and financial resources of the police service. And that phrase, complete powers, could always be brought up against what might be otherwise stated in the contracts, in the contract of the police commissioner. That puts the Police Service Commission in a rather invidious position as to where to determine and how to derive accountability from the police commissioner, because he can always rely, as he has relied, upon the phrase complete powers. The public needs to know this, because we have been subjected to rapid fire from the media, for example, as to what are you doing? Mr. Iwatsky is not in the country. Mr. Gibbs got held up in Venezuela. And what is the Police Service Commission doing about these things? But we have to be careful in the exercise of our jurisdiction in face of what I just told you, complete powers to manage the police service. Let me give you a specific case for the public interest and to help underline the importance of the mission we are about to embark upon, that is to review the legislative and administrative structure of the Police Service Commission. Mr. Iwatsky was not in the country, and we got wind of it because we didn't know. We thought we were supposed to be informed when either the commissioner or any of his deputies are absent from the country, notified. But we were told that the police commissioner gave him approval, and we were so informed by the police commissioner. We had thought that that approval would have come from the Ministry of National Security, given the contract as we know it to be. Upon further inquiry, we were told, as I just related, that the commissioner feels and is convinced that he has complete powers, and included in those complete powers is the power to give approval to his deputy to leave the country. But the contract doesn't say so. The importance of that example to us is that we are responsible as a Police Service Commission, Ms. Cox, as you would realize, Ms. McIntyre, and Mr. Reno and Ms. Otley. We are responsible for making an appointment for the person to act. So if we don't know, in this case, that the Deputy Commissioner is away from the country, there will be a gap between our initiative to make the acting appointment and the time that the person left the country. So that is one example of many other examples, ladies and gentlemen, that need to be healed. To be doubly assured of our concern, we sought advice from senior counsel. Is it right for the police commissioner to rely on the phrase complete powers in such an instance? Senior counsel said at the end of his advice that it would have been good public administration if he had sought approval from the ministry and also informed us more expeditiously. But in legal terms, he said, yes, it appears under Section 123 of the Constitution that since the police commissioner has complete powers, senior counsel felt, yes, he reserves that right to give approval. And that is contrary to what the contract says or what our Police Service Commission expectations are with respect to approval. So there are serious issues because, especially in a state of emergency, we would want all men and women to be on board. And if they are not on board, we would like to feel that the vacancies or the gaps should be properly filled. And I think that is what senior counsel meant by proper public administration. But you can't rely only on the spirit of the law. You have to get the letter of the law properly configured. And that is what we are seeking to do. So all these experiences, and it's nothing personal about the commissioner, it is that he feels he has complete powers. So the structure is not anything personal. It has to do with the systemic drawbacks and insufficiencies here and there that we are now trying to bring greater comfort to. The other issue is to what extent does the jurisdiction of the Ministry of National Security extend over the police service? If the gentleman in question or the woman in question as police commissioner has complete powers, well, the opposite question could be asked, what is the scope of those complete powers? So the ministry expects to exercise certain powers, perceive no doubt that the police service is another department of the government. But in the new constitutional framework, there are gaps in that perception. It may not be so, as evidenced by the example I just gave you. So we are not only reforming the Police Service Commission, the terms of reference that we are undertaking now would extend to trying to clarify the relationships between the three key agencies: the Police Service, the Ministry of National Security, and the Police Service Commission.
Hi, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Apologies.
I was trying to fill the gap here before the minister, but I think the gap sounded more important than I expected it to sound. I was trying to take up some time. Thank you very much for coming, Madam Minister of Public Administration. Your permanent secretary is here, so what you would have missed, I'm certain she would fill you in.
Sure, that's good.
Because there are long stories by what I'm telling you. I was trying to give a perspective as to why we are here and where we intend to go, and I was illustrating in some detail some of the examples and evidence why we need to clarify the constitutional framework and the administrative relationships affecting the Police Service Commission. And I also described the meeting as a historic one, and I gave the reasons why. Ms. Cox, may I emphasize, Madam Minister, is here representing the leader of the opposition, because as I called your name just now, I think we were both in Parliament when some features of the new amendments affecting the Police Service Commission and hiring the police commissioner were discussed. And I recall the bipartisan pledge made at that time to have a review of the Police Service Commission structure and legislation, undertaking about 2 years afterwards. The Attorney General will be here in a few minutes, and I guess when he comes, he will make, he's on his way. When he comes, he will